Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to the new series of Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree Kermode. Last week I popped along to Ballakillingan in Lizare to catch up with the school children there.
I spoke to Craig Brinkley, who's opening his garden in a couple of weeks' time to raise money for charity. Well, firstly, Kirree, how has it been? It's been nice weather, but the ground's fairly hard.
It is indeed, Simon. It is very dry out there underfoot, and grass growth has been slow, and after a long spring and a struggle to get the first cut silage, some of the boys have been back out again getting the second cut. But like you say, it is dry and not much regrown very quickly.
Yeah, and it's nice to see a bit of variation this year. You know, I've been seeing silage trailers out. I've seen the haylage done and the round bales done, and some square ones as well, which are handy for the horse people, aren't they?
Oh, they really are, and for the sheep pens as well at lambing time. Always handy, but a lot of hard work goes into getting those small square bales, and I bet you remember as a young fella there hoiking on the strings and cutting into your hands.
Oh, yeah, on the sled.
Loading them one at a time.
On the sledge behind the baler.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, that was a fancy one for you.
Yeah, I've been hit on the tailgate, on the head by the tailgate many times. But anyway, there's some changes in line for the agricultural world involving the Wildlife Trust.
Absolutely, yeah. Now the Department of Agriculture have moved away from the single farm payment being tied to the land, etc. It's now more environmentally friendly. And I caught up with Brian and Fiona Brumby at Ballakillingan that were actually getting involved with part of the new agri-environment scheme in the form of having children there for educational purposes. And also leading that day was David Bellamy from the Manx Wildlife Trust. And I asked him how it was going.
So what we've got today, Kirree, we have got Kirree School here. They've brought 60 children, and this is the third day that we've been delivering educational visits as part of the new agri-environment scheme here at Sillymoos campsite or Ballakillingan farm. And this is a really special moment because obviously the agri-environment scheme is a new thing for Manx farmers, and Farmer Brian and Farmer Fiona, as they're known as today, are, as far as I'm aware, the very first farmers on the Isle of Man who are delivering this new environmental scheme in terms of the educational visits side of things, and it's been really successful over the last couple of days.
And that is a huge undertaking. Brian and Fiona Brumby are a very well-known farming family and had so much success with agriculture, so this is quite a new thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had 180 children from 4 different island primary schools. So it's been so rewarding to show them around. And what we're doing is Fiona is showing them about agriculture and showing them how milk is produced and how flour is produced, etc. Brian is taking them on a safari tour around the farm. And this is a beautiful, really extensive farm here on the Northern Plain. And they're doing that on an open-top trailer towed by a tractor. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking the children round the barns, round the woodland, round the pastures and round some of the wildlife areas that Brian and Fiona have created, and looking at some of our Manx farmland wildlife. And it's really exciting because the agri-environment scheme is new for the island, and this one is being rolled out to all island farms, and this is something that we hope all Isle of Man farms will engage with.
And like you've just said there, not everybody could do this though, David. You know, how many farms could this happen if the 5 or 6 decide, oh, we'll do this? Is there enough call for it?
So, as I said, we've had 4 primary schools here, and I think we've got well over 30 primary schools on the island, and then of course we've got a load of children in secondary education too. And this educational visits can also be used for primary and secondary children who are in other groups like the Cubs and the Scouts. So there's loads of potential. We've only really scratched the surface of Manx school children, of the number of Manx school children today. But a key thing is Fiona and Brian here have got a really good setup, and they've chosen a perfect time of year because all of their barns are empty right now. The animals are outside, so we've got this indoor area which is great in case we get rain, and they've got good facilities. Because they've got the campsite, they've got the toilets, they've got hand washing areas, so it's a perfect setup. So it probably won't work for every farm, but they could go for really small groups as well. There's no one to say how big a group has to be. And if you don't have all the facilities we've got here, you can go for secondary education for older children.
And how have you found the children? How has their response been to all of this new adventure?
Well, they've been really excited, and I think, of course, the last year we've had with lockdown, a lot of children have been stuck inside endlessly. Just been playing on their phones or computers, so that they're really excited to get out of the classroom, and they're just amazed to see some of the nature here. And this week has been really good because we've got nesting swallows in the barn, and the kids have been able to go right safely up to the nest and see the little chicks looking at them, and some of them have never had this experience.
And do you find that Manx children, we're very lucky here on the Isle of Man, it is a beautiful island, but are you still finding children haven't had the exposure?
Yeah, we really are. So one of the children asked me yesterday, where do the cows drink their milk? And this is exactly the sort of thing that we're trying to address, because a lot of Manx children are totally detached from nature and from farming, and they've got no idea where their food is coming from. And that's why I think this new scheme is really good for redressing that and teaching the children about their landscape, about their wildlife, and really importantly about where their food is coming from, and just the amount of work that goes into it.
And like you say, that's really, really quite shocking for a small island like ours where countryside is on our doorstep. It does make you wonder about some of these bigger cities across the UK.
Yeah, it really does, but we're just so fortunate, and I think the last 18 months have really just reinforced how fortunate we are here on the Isle of Man.
And you've grown up yourself, David, being active in the countryside. This is your love.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I was born and bred in London, and I spent all of my time outside messing about, and I was really fortunate. I was just at that age where it was before computers and game consoles were a really big thing. So as a nation, we have got a problem, I think, that how do we get the children back out into the countryside? And we've also, that problem's compounded by a lot of the parents of these children didn't go outside and play and explore when they were children themselves. So hopefully something like this will start to rebalance that equation.
And from your point of view, from the Manx Wildlife Trust, how do you see the new Agri-Environment Handbook?
So we're really excited about the scheme. So this new scheme is excellent. We have, of course, had a pilot agri-environment scheme before, but that was very limited in scope, and unfortunately the funding was withdrawn from that. But what's excellent about this new scheme is it's applicable to all 341 active farmers on the Isle of Man, and it's got £1 million worth of budget for this year alone, and that budget will stay and hopefully increase in the future. And when we look overseas, when we look at what's happening in the UK, certainly in England with the rollout of ELMS, we know that agri-environment schemes are here to stay, and this is the way that farming support will look in the future. So the Isle of Man is tackling this right at the perfect time.
And like you said earlier, having Brian and Fiona host this really, really special week anyway, they are doing something that they can earn money at.
Yes, so this new scheme is all about delivering public goods for public money, and this is a really exciting scheme. This is working for the schools, this is working for this specific farm, and it's really working for the Manx Nation. It is part of our wider education piece. And in terms of other initiatives, there are 38 possible initiatives which cover a really broad range, and it doesn't matter whether you're an upland farmer, whether you're arable, whether you're a grassland farmer. There's something in it for everyone. And what's really important and the most impressive part of the scheme is one of the initiatives is called farmer initiatives, where the farmer themselves can suggest anything that has a benefit to agriculture, to the environment, or to the nation as a whole. And that's such a great thing, that because no one scheme will be applicable to every farm and all the circumstances of a certain farmer, but any farmer can recommend anything they like.
So how do you think our farmers will adapt to these new changes? Obviously, they're so used to using the land for production and growing food, and especially now everything is changed. How do you think they'll feel?
Any new scheme, and of course in the last decade or so we've had lots of changes to farming support on the Isle of Man. So any new scheme is always going to be fraught with bureaucracy, with new paperwork, and it's going to take farmers a while to get their head around the scheme. However, what this scheme is, it's not revolutionary. It's looking at lots of small little changes that a farmer can make on their farm, like restoring an old hedgerow or redigging a dub that's silted up over time, or even putting a couple of nest boxes out. And what Brian and Fiona are doing here today is just 3 days out of the farming calendar. That will give them a considerable income from this. So there's lots of small things. We're not talking about a revolution in Manx agriculture, so farmers don't need to be scared of the new scheme. It will take them a while to get their head around it, and we absolutely recognise that. But there will be a delivery partner who's able to talk farmers through the scheme and make sure that they're comfortable with it. And it's also important to stress it's a voluntary scheme, so no farmer has to join this. It's only the farmers that feel comfortable. And if any farmer doesn't feel comfortable, they're more than welcome to contact the Manx Wildlife Trust, and we'll explain them through it. Our wildlife adventure is going to start here in the barn. Now, old Manx barns like this one are really important special places for nature, because if you look at them, can you see they've got broken windows, there's nooks and crannies, little holes in the wall, and these sparrows that you can hear, they have their nests inside this barn. And we've got something really special inside the barn. We've got some swallows, and these swallows are birds that spend their winter in Africa because they don't like our winter. They eat insects, and we don't have many insects here in winter when it's cold and wet and rainy. But at this time of year we have lots of insects. So they're flown all the way to the Isle of Man from Africa, and they love places like this. A bit like we like to live in a house to keep us nice and warm and dry. They like to live in our barns for all those reasons. Their eggs and chicks can stay nice and warm and dry. So we're going to go into the barn. Now when we go into the barn, you're going to get to see some nests up close, and if we're lucky, there might be some chicks in there. So I'll remind you just before we go in, but we need to whisper in there, okay? And we need to be really quiet. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Ready? Let's go. Has anyone noticed the scarecrows?
Yeah, I saw it.
So when Farmer Brian and Farmer Fiona plant their crops, there's lots of birds, and there's one that has been flying around a lot today, a big black looking bird called a rook, and they really like to eat the seeds that the farmers are trying to sow to grow crops for us to eat. So those scarecrows go out in the fields and they're trying to scare away the rooks and the crows that will come and eat the seeds. So right now we're going to go into this barn, and we've got a couple of swallows flying around that we'll look out for when we come back out. And I'm going to show you this nest, so just remember, quiet voices in here, okay? Okay, everyone, gather round. Come nice and close. Okay. Keep coming. Come nice and close. Okay, we've got a really special treat for you, because what we've got here, there are 2 swallow nests. Now, a lot of you have seen already, there's a swallow nest in this corner right here. And if you look closely, can you see the little chicks have just got their chins on the edge of the nest? So there's 4 little chicks in there, and they're waiting for Mummy and Daddy to come and feed them. You might have heard Mummy and Daddy are outside making a noise, and they're catching the insects that they're going to bring in here. And when they've got a beak full of insects, they'll come in, the chicks will wake up, they'll open their beaks nice and wide, and they'll be like, feed me, feed me.
Baby, I just saw that one move.
Yeah, so that one's awake. And you guys are so lucky that you're here now, because those chicks are going to fly and leave the nest any day now. They're almost ready. But just over here we have another nest, and this one is late. It still has got eggs inside, and the mummy or daddy are tucked away in there. They're keeping the eggs warm, and that's what's called incubation. By keeping them nice and warm, it allows the eggs to grow. And if you have a look, can you see the nest is made of mud? So the adults have flown around and they've found puddles or the edge of dubs or rivers, and they've landed and they've collected mud in their beak, and they've come and slapped it on the wall and made this nest. And just over here I've got a nest that I can show you from last year. Right. Gather round everyone, nice and close. So what I have here is one of the nests from last year that's disused, and it fell off the wall. But that's really good because we can see it up close. And can you see how it's made of mud? It's very dry now, but when it was made, it was wet mud that quickly dried. And if I turn it up so you can see inside, can you see there is a bed of dry grass? Because remember, eggs are very fragile, so they need to be laid on a nice soft surface. And that hay, the little grass in here, helps keep the chicks nice and warm when they're born too. And if I turn it around, Can you see how there's a nice protective wall all the way around it? That's to stop the eggs rolling out or the chicks from being pushed out by their brothers and sisters. How cool is that? So we can touch this, okay? But you have to touch it one at a time and very gently because it's very fragile. So you can feel it. The mud is dry and feel how soft the hay is. It's a very special little place for some baby birds. They are very creative, and they've made this using all natural materials and all materials that were found here on the farm. I just think those little swallows we can see in the corner, in a couple of weeks they'll be flying around here, they'll be getting big and fully grown, and they'll be soon ready to fly all the way to Africa. And they don't need to use an aeroplane like we do. How cool is that they can fly to the other side of the world when they're just a couple of weeks old?
What are those over there?
That's the milking parlour. So that's where the cows get milked.
What do you guys think of the baby birds?
They look cute.
Did you see them peeping over?
Yeah. They look cute.
What did you see?
The beaks. Yeah. The beaks like peeking out.
Peeking out. And do you think flying all the way to Africa is a long, long way?
Yes.
That's a very long way, isn't it? And how have you enjoyed being on the farm today?
Good. It's cool, fun.
Really enjoyed it?
Yeah, you can learn a lot.
And would you come again?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
How did you enjoy it?
Good.
Really good. Boys, do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Tractor the best part?
Yeah.
Girls, what was your best part?
The tractor.
Oh.
All the little cows and there's little lambs and they're so cute.
Excellent. Anyway, we better carry on with our tour.
Well, today, Brian, you're farmer Brian to many of these children. What a couple of days you've had here at Ballakillingan.
Yeah, we've been fortunate to have about 180 children through the farm in the last 3 days. Been a pleasure to work with most of them, anyway.
But to open your farm up, Brian, I know that you do the campsite Silly Moose and it's been a great diversification for yourself and Fiona. But how has it been to be the other side of it now, educating the younger generation of what you love, farming and agriculture?
Yeah, it's something we've got to engage more in. We produce, as farmers, these products, and we've got to educate the children and hope they take it with them into buying Manx products and what we produce and why they should buy Manx products. And in that, we're working over the last 3 days with Manx Wildlife Trust, and so there's the wildlife aspect of it on the island and the picturesque of the island, the small fields we work with and hedgerows, and all that comes into it and is a reason for people to buy Manx products.
And how do you find the new agro-environmental scheme will be taken up by the farmers? Because, like I said to David, change is always quite difficult.
Yeah, and it is a change. We did have the agri-environment scheme for a few farms, which back in 2008 it finished, and that was supposed to be expanded out, but finances weren't available. And I think it's good to have it back. At the end of the day, it is public money that is helping farm businesses, and we all know that the talk at the moment is environment and climate change and everything, and it's something we've got to be involved in.
And how has yourself and Fiona received it? Because obviously you're here talking to the children yourselves. You've had no other education to deliver sessions. Has it been daunting?
It's been educational. You learn as you go. We have a basic plan of what we want to talk about and what we want to try to explain to the kids. Then questions come up and you think, that was a good question. I'll include that next time I talk to some because that was relevant. And other bits get dropped as you go because there doesn't seem to be any interest or uptake on it. So, yeah, we're learning and gaining knowledge ourselves all the time.
Yeah. And I suppose this year with the pandemic, your diversification with the campsites has been, without visitors, it's been very hard. You're obviously looking for other ways to earn money and this is available.
Yeah, this is available. It's one of the threads of the It's under the educational section of the new ADS and tied in with the agri-environment scheme. So, as everybody knows, the basic payment's been reduced, and we need to get involved in some of these things to maintain our income or even boost our income. Yep.
How do you find, or how do you think farmers will find this? Do you think that they'll adapt and change, or is it not for everyone?
I hope they will. I mean, that there is glimmers of hope just on the pure farming side with the current uplift in prices being received, and hopefully, the pure farming side in an ideal world would stand on its own with no government financial help at all to keep it all going. Whether that, the current situation is short term or whether it'll be longer term, crystal ball gazing. But I think all farmers would prefer the pure agricultural bit just to be financially viable on its own with no help from government. So if we can move to a situation like that, the government help then can go on other areas. And as we say, environment, carbon, climate change, they're all the relevant topics, and they are not going to go away. They're here to stay.
That was David Bellamy, the Conservation Officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, and Brian Brumby, the farm owner at Ballakillingan.
Well, it sounds as though it's something that's changed a few times over recent years, so I suppose people got to get their heads round it and what's best to do. It's chopping and changing. It's always hard change, and how agriculture has been going this last while is a lot more down the green environmental road, and with the pandemic it's really reiterated how important local food supply is. And I think as much as there's change coming, there's still a massive focus on the food supply, and farmers won't come away from that anytime soon. But just little bits and pieces that we can change and alter. It's always nice to keep an eye on wildlife. At the end of the day, without the bees, we don't have very much, and we have to look after them in the diminishing numbers that's happening around the world. And other small birds, the numbers are dropping, aren't they? They are indeed. Plenty of droppings. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, last year, or was it the year before? I can't honestly remember. But we went along to a house up towards the Jurby Church at Jurby West in the north of the Isle of Man. And Craig Brinkley, who was running the Snaefell Garden Services, actually did a lot of work and a lot of alterations to his own garden and opened up for the general public to raise money for charity. Well, this year he's doing it again on the 24th and 25th of this month, and I popped along to have a look to see how things were going and had a chat with Craig and put it to him, is it a worrying or exciting time for the 2 days coming ahead?
A bit of both. It's going to be rewarding, just doing 2 charities this time, 2 days.
Right, and of course this is the second year I think you've done this, being into the garden and yourself, and you thought, well, might as well put my skills to the public and make use of it and raise money for charity as well. That's the idea originally last year, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. But I've given up gardening as a career, gone into something completely different.
Well, that'll be a bit of an eye-opener then, will it?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
But obviously it's kept you physically fit over these years. Maybe too much for not too much reward, is it?
I just want the work-life balance a bit better.
Yeah.
We're having a 3.5 acre garden. It takes a lot of looking after.
Yeah, 3.5 acres, that's a fair amount. Now, I was here last year ahead of your open weekend, and wow, there's been a lot of growth. There's some high grass here. Is it sort of ryegrass? I don't know what it is.
It's called Calamagrostis carforester. It's about double the height it was last year, which is nice to see. I think it's because we've had so much rain in the winter.
Yeah, and what else have you done? You had bits and pieces to, obviously, big motorcycle fans yourself, and you've still kept that theme in places, because that's part of the charities as well, I think.
Yep, we've got the tyre from Tom Whedon out the front with the 3 legs this time. I've added a few more different plants this year. I've planted hedging this year. We've got a bit more longer grass, which makes it a bit more interesting.
The unique part about this garden is that you come into it and you think, oh, it's a very nice garden here. You look beyond it, you've got the wood here behind you, the various little sheds and fences, all their little characteristics, and something hidden that we'll talk about a little bit later. But I mean, how long has it taken you to get it how you want? Is this how you want it now, Craig? Or gardeners never happy?
Some gardeners are never happy. There's a few little tweaks I want to make, but the whole concept of what we've got here now is here to stay. I've made the pond bigger than last year, and it looks really well.
And what about the? Is it difficult to? I suppose it's a sort of artistry and talent that you can sit back and go, I think a nice violet coloured plant will go there, or a pink one there. Is that a sort of art to it as well?
There is, and I wanted a bit more height variation in it this year, which I think I've achieved. It's not completely fully there yet because the plants aren't to their maximum height. They will be in a couple of weeks' time. It just adds so you can't see around things, and it makes you want to wander. And the plants are actually repeated, so it links the whole garden. So you'll see them in one patch somewhere, and then you'll see them in a different patch the other somewhere else.
Yeah, because I've been to a lot of open gardens where villages have them, and you go from garden to garden. A lot of them have the lovely neat garden, with the pretty flowers. The other one will be more sort of wilder. You've managed to create a bit of everything in yours, Craig.
A bit of both. The main idea for it is wildlife. Lots of bees, butterflies, dragonflies we have, frogs in the pond, got goldfish in the pond, various birds. What we got? Magpies, missel thrush, wagtail, goldfinch, lots of goldfinch, nesting, robin, the lean down tree that I call it has actually had a robin in the base of it nesting and giving birth this year.
Well, yeah, that's just the exciting part of it, isn't it? Where you're encouraging things to breed and make themselves feel welcome, really. In it, you got the wood there. There's quite a few trees in that, and that's got it's like walking into a little mini forest as well.
It's a bit like Harry Potter. We have at night time about 30 pheasants come through every single evening and roost in our trees.
Good soundproofing in the house.
They're quite noisy, especially if something spooks them.
But other things, you got your vegetable patch here as well. You've got a few vegetables. But the unique thing I mentioned at the start, you've got one of the preserved bunkers that were used to protect the airfield during the wartime training. Yeah,
the World War II pillbox. When we had the storms last year, me and my partner actually stood on the top watching the storm come over the mountain.
Really?
That was something special. And the sunsets at night time we watch from there.
Yeah.
And just a cup of tea, cup of coffee, dangling our feet off the edge. It's lovely. Yeah,
but it is a real sight to see. And just talk about why you've done it and what you're raising money for.
I'm raising money this year for Isle of Man Air Ambulance like I did last year, but I'm also going to do it for Kirree, which is a homeless shelter charity that provides emergency night shelter for homeless people from 18 upwards. It's needed. It doesn't get spoke about over here, homelessness, and it needs to. There is a lot of people that need help. I've done a few volunteering shifts. Did a night shift just to get an idea of what it's like. It's rewarding, but there is people that need help.
And the open weekend, it is? It's Saturday and the Sunday?
Yeah, Saturday the 24th and Sunday the 25th, 10 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Right, as long as they're going to Jurby Church, they won't be able to miss it. Will they be able to park somewhere up here?
Yeah, I'm going to open our paddock up. There'll be signage to direct you to the paddock. Just makes it easier because last year it was so busy, the lane was actually chock-a-block with cars, even past the crossroads.
So if they come up here nearly to the church on the left, they'll find a parking space.
Yep.
So not need to park on the verges.
No.
And again, admission's free, is it?
It's
But
free.
donations for the charities?
Yep, just donation. Whatever you give, it all goes to the 2 charities that need it.
Do people need to bring their flask with them to sit on the top of the bunker or not?
No. We're going to have people making cakes, homemade cakes. We're going to be offering teas, cold drinks and coffees.
Well, it's a fantastic thing you're doing, and I'm sure it'll be bigger and better success than last year, if it can match it.
I hope so. I hope we raise more. We raised just over £1,700 last year.
Wow. Well done.
Thank you.
Greg Brinkley there, opening his garden on the 24th and 25th of July. On the Saturday and Sunday, open from 10 till 4 o'clock. Wonderful idea to raise money for them charities.
Everybody loves to get out in the garden, don't they? And flowers in abundance at this time of year. The colour just cheers you right up. And what better way to raise money? It's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not going to open mine up just yet. It's not quite ready for the public. But anyway, we're back next Tuesday with more. Don't forget, if you've got anything for Countryside, please leave a message for Kirree Kermode or Simon Clark here at Manx Radio and we'll get back to you. Or you can send an email to countryside@manxradio.com. But we'll leave it there for this week. We're back next Tuesday at 6. So until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.